try to figure out where the source of this of the dissatisfaction is, so that they can kind of make some changes so that they can avoid having complaints. If it's family members, trying to ensure that they're answering questions to family so that they feel like family could come directly to them without having to go through the department to make complaints. If it's your neighbors, whether that be communicating more openly with the neighbors and trying to work things through. However, so complaint are always kept, but the complainants are kept confidential. We don't indicate who the complainant was. We just indicate that we're there for a complaint, and we'll request records and information. Please keep in mind, though, when we are doing complaint investigations, we're not necessarily looking at the actual allegation as much as is the facility in violation of a rule. So that could be in violation of the rule specific to the person that the complaint is about, or to anybody. So they could have another resident that is in violation of that rule. Compliance officers will investigate the allegations provided in the complaint, and if applicable, deficiencies may be cited. And then unfortunately, sometimes things do go to enforcement. So there's things that if they meet the criteria for enforcement, they'll be referred to the enforcement team, and they review those enforcement referrals, and then they take appropriate action. Considerations are direct risk to life, health, and safety of a resident, any repeated violations of the statutes or rules. So if the last time we were out for a compliance inspection or a complaint investigation, we cited a rule and it wasn't corrected at this visit, then that would be considered a repeat of the violation. A pattern of violations, the severity of the violations, and the number of violations. Enforcement actions are progressive in nature, and so they could include, sorry. Did somebody have a question? Sorry.
No, go ahead. I think somebody just signed in.
Okay.
Their audio on. Yeah.
So it could be civil money penalties or fines, license revocation reviews. It was to the point where the department felt that the license should be revoked. Cease and desist, that's usually going to be only for your unlicensed care facilities, and an injunction would also be for your unlicensed care facilities. Enforcement referrals, so common items that are referred to enforcement. So keep this in mind as far as these are the big things that you should look at to make sure you're in compliance. Would be any negative outcomes related to health and safety, any repeat violations. So making sure that if you get cited for something one year, that's one of the high profile things that you want to audit and make sure you're in compliance with. Any fingerprint issues, personnel issues, like if you're missing a personnel record or any of those key things that are needed to be in the record, such as fingerprints or CPR, first aid, any background checks for children. If residents are left alone or left alone with a staff that's unqualified. If the facility is over capacity, or any false or misleading information that's documented and provided to the department. And then residential facility data. So this is just kind of, so you're aware of where we're at. Currently, we have over 3,000 facilities that we license. This graph will show you here the assisted living homes are the most. We have 17 of assisted living homes, but currently our behavioral health residential facilities is growing extremely fast. 5 years ago, we were at, I believe, 500. So we have doubled that. We're just over 1,000 assisted living centers, and then that's adult behavioral health therapeutic homes, adult foster care homes, adult day health, and then behavioral health respite homes. So that's kind of the breakdown of where we're at for what we license currently. And these are the top 10 deficiencies currently. So for assisted living homes, right now, our number one thing that we are citing is right now healthcare institution fall prevention. So this particular statute came out, I believe, at the, I want to say 2021. So just recently, it hasn't been out. It was something that the fire departments came together and with legislators and put this rule in place because of the concern of going out to healthcare institutions where residents had fallen and they were still laying on the ground but not injured, waiting for fire department to pick them up, or they were just calling them when, because a resident may be too heavy and they didn't have two people on staff. There may have been a two-person lift. So they implemented this rule, which basically requires all of our healthcare institutions to have fall prevention and fall recovery. And so they have to implement those, any first aid or CPR services on anybody who doesn't have a documented DNR in place. So this is a very common one because it just got implemented. So that's why it's been cited a lot. But that probably will not be one of those that trends next year. I have a feeling that by next year, that will not be the number one citation. Assisted living centers, we have, sorry, this is for centers. And again, it's the fall prevention and recovery for centers. And then behavioral health is under emergency and safety standards, is number one, which is 720B4, and environmental standards. The fall prevention and fall recovery is a little bit lower though. It probably should be higher, but I have a feeling it's more likely it wasn't cited all the time when it was supposed to be. There was a little bit of miscommunication, I think, at the beginning, whether behavioral health facilities were required to have this rule. So emergency safety, emergency standards, oftentimes we do have things that are dangerous environmentally in behavioral health facilities. So we need to make sure that we're looking at those things to ensure that there's no safety issues at our behavioral health facilities. This is our website that we talked about at the very beginning. For additional information, we do have a lot of good information on this website. I encourage you to kind of play around and look at all the different links. But this is our direct azdhs.gov /residential facilities. And then if you'd like to look at other facilities to see what their last 3 years of compliance and complaint inspections history is, you can go to azcarecheck.com. You can look at that. You can also see enforcement action for closed facilities for the past 3 years. And then we also have online complaints that you can issue any kind of online complaint you have for any facilities. So this is kind of what our website looks like when you go to it. When you go to residential facilities, this is what you're going to see. We do try to put out, this is what we call our call out window here. We try to put out any important current information that we want to make sure that all of the facilities receive or have easy access to right now. Many know that there was a big change in our tuberculosis screening rules. So this is really great. If you click on this tuberculosis screening, you'll see the provider handouts, and it will take you to the webpage that has all the relevant rules regarding TB. We still have the COVID guidance on there, license fee, payment reminder information, electronic correspondence, and then the rule about that we no longer are requiring the architect review for our assisted living centers. And then we did have amended fingerprint clearance card statute. The statute's been revised. So, but here is where you would click if you want to go to AZ Care Check to check status of complaints and compliance inspections for facilities. This is the online complaint form if you want to issue one. And then this online provider services here is a really great resource. That's where you're going to find a lot of information, helpful information about becoming licensed or maintaining compliance. And then here's your online where you can download the application. And so this is another view of that. When you're looking, once you go to a provider page, you'll see this. You click on here, here's all the different information. These are our rules. If you want, I think the direct link should take you to the Arizona Administrative Code, which we find is the most helpful to just go to that page, so that way it's the most up-to-date rules. We also have the link to the revised statutes, Smoke-Free Arizona, some Arizona substantive policy statements, and any guidance documents. But there's also information, frequently asked questions, some provider resources and trainings that are really helpful information as well. And that is it, but I'm open to answering any questions that you have that might be relevant to this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Graham. We appreciate the presentation. I'm pretty sure my comrades have learned a thing or two. I'd like to have my colleague, Mr. Wamala. Do you have a few questions here to ask?
Yeah, thank you, Cindy, for the presentation and taking your time to come and educate us. We have a couple questions, and maybe more will come, but the first question that we want to ask is, there seems to be some confusion between what the state requires and what the city requires. It seems like when we go to this, we have to start from the cities in order to get the zoning, certificate of occupancy, and all those requirements, because the state wants those. However, we go to some of the cities, they don't offer some of those items, like certificate of occupancy. So how can we get alignment between cities and the state, or is there any number that we can call if we are stuck from the municipality level?
That is an excellent question. I wish I could have had an easy answer that said all of our cities did the same thing. Unfortunately, that's what we find, is each city has something different that we've tried to work with them, and we'd like them to do the same thing. We don't require like a certificate of occupancy. The rule just says compliance with city codes and zoning. So some cities will give you a certificate of occupancy, others might not issue that. It just needs to indicate that you're able to provide that type of service. So whatever type of subclass home that you want to license there, and then the capacity of the home. So given that, if the city doesn't offer that, then the alternative would be is that you get something in writing from them that indicates they don't, and then a licensed contractor can indicate that the facility is safe to operate that type of facility. But unfortunately, I wish that all the cities were the same. But unfortunately, they haven't come on. They're given the option per their rules to decide how they implement them. So they all kind of do it a little differently.
Okay, so from a state level, then it's just compliance. We just have to ensure that the city is okay for us to move forward, and then as long as there's at least an okay or some kind of documentation that the city has given us the green light, then we can proceed at the state level.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I think we have more questions in the chat, but I have a few here that I had written down. What is the timeline on these applications? Seems to be that we are not sure exactly how long it takes once we get to the state level. And the second part would be to that question, is there any way to streamline that process that it could be some quick approval for people that are applying for licenses?
At this time, the timeframes are in Article 1 that indicate the maximum timeframes, but I would say that in the administrative timeframes, I believe that, I'm trying to go off of my memory here. I think that each of the facility has 60 days to do their part. We have, I believe, we either have 60 or 90 days on our part, but we usually don't ever come towards I think it's 60 days, our maximum. Then it goes in substantive review, which is where the compliance officer comes into place. And at that point, the facility has 120 days to come into substantial compliance to be able to get that license. So it depends really on the facility. We usually don't have a big delay on our part if everything's ready to go. What we find is particularly for behavioral health homes, because they weren't as frequent and there's probably not as much information out there. They've had the most rule changes out of the subclasses. So we find that we do have a lot of wrong information out there, policy and procedures that might not meet the current rules might be circulated out there. So our assisted living homes seem to get licensed fairly quickly because they've been around a lot longer, and there's lots of, I think, policies and procedures out there that people either purchase or share with each other that are in compliance with the rules. So we do find that those tend to go faster, but usually it's a back and forth between making sure they're in compliance with the current rules.
Well, thank you for that response. So we'll keep that in mind. Another question that we have, most of us live here in Arizona, and we see the problem, we see the issue and the need, and there's a lot of people that would like to participate and help enhance this conversation we are having here. But is there any kind of programs that can help, number one, educate or even financially help people that would like to get into this program from a grant perspective, financial assistance? If somebody would like to get in here, is there any, number one, education, or number two, financial assistance or grants?
I don't know of any financial assistance at all that I've come across at all. We used to have some classes that we taught in person here for obtaining a license, but because it became very difficult to manage because of the frequency that we have now of our applicants, we've probably, I think, tripled our applications that we receive in the last, I think, 3 years. So the amount that we receive is significant, but we do have some online resources for that. I know that there's some consultants out there that do work with different subclasses to get them licensed and ready to go. I just encourage, though, that when you use a consultant, to also use them to help you manage the facility as well, because that's what we're finding is when we come back out, there are quite a few consultants out there that will say that they can get you turnkey ready, maybe even provide you with temporary staff. But then when we come back out, then the current staff are not in compliance with what the policy and procedures they established, and they're not operating as they should. So making sure the maintaining of compliance is what we're finding is becoming much more difficult than actually just getting the license.
Okay.
Ms. Amala, you still have a question?
I have actually one more here. There seems to be a little bit of a backlash, obviously, from residents that are next to group homes. How can people that are already engaged in this business and those that would like to get in, I mean, is there any kind of, maybe for lack of a better word, call it protection, or from the backlash of those neighboring residents?
That is a hard one. I know we get a lot of our complaints are from neighbors of facilities. We call it the not in my backyard complaint. And unfortunately, some of them I totally understand if they have, when you're in a neighborhood with children and you have people who are, leaving these facilities intoxicated or, vandalizing different things in the neighborhood, that I understand why they're issuing complaints. So I believe a lot of it is trying really hard to make sure that you're communicating with your neighbors and making sure that you're discharging residents that are not appropriate immediately, so that you're not creating that atmosphere in the neighborhood, so that you're hopefully trying to be as respectful to those neighbors as possible, that they want to, be able to have their family there and feel safe, that you don't have a resident that might not be safe. I'm sure you've all aware of the serious issues that have hit the media when we've had some really bad outcomes. And so, of course, those are the things that retain in these people's heads, is that's what they think is living next to them. And they become afraid, and they sometimes issue complaints. We do get a lot of complaints that have no merit at all, that just say that there's people there, but they're assuming the worst. And so I would say that that's one of those opportunities, maybe just making sure that you're communicating with your neighbors and trying to make sure that, and give them the opportunity to first come to you if there's an issue. If you ever have an issue, please come to me first, give them your number. So that way you are opening up those lines of communication to hopefully avoid getting them just filing those complaints to the state immediately.
Well, just a quick follow-up on that. So when you get a complaint from somebody, how is that? What is the first step? Is it to first contact the facility first, or what is the step? Because as you mentioned, that some of them may be unsubstantiated. So just trying to find out what is the first, what are the steps that are taken from there?
By statute, we are required to investigate all complaints, and we are to keep that information confidential. So usually our first step is to look at what the complainant is alleging and see if any of those allegations fall into our rules. And so if any of those things could be a possible rule violation, they'll get assigned a priority of how urgent it is based on what information they're giving us. The compliance officer will be assigned it, and then they contact the complainant to get any additional information that they'd like to provide. And then if the facility is also due for a complaint or a compliance inspection, they might go out at the same time. It's going to be based on how high of a priority it is, or they might have to go out right away, and then they'll come on site and they'll inform the facility that they're there for a complaint investigation. They try to make sure that they're looking at a sample of files, as or observing what they're observing. We're not allowed to accept the complainant documents and information as evidence. We have to obtain our own evidence. So that way, if somebody makes up something, we're not just taking that as that's fact. We have to look and we have to find our own evidence while we're on site.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. I see some questions here in the chat. Maybe I'll pick up one or two. There's been a little bit of a confusion of a number of people that you are required to have in a group home in regards to a license. Is there a limit, a minimum number of people that you can have in a facility before you are required to have a license? Or is it that whether you have 1 or 10, you are required to have a license?
In our statute, it'll say that there's an exception to requiring a license. It says you can care for 2 unrelated individuals as long as you're not purporting to be a business. on a consistent basis, basically. So you can't be a business and you can't continue. You can't get two and then get two more later, and then two more. The intent of that rule is to like be able to care for like a family member or a friend. And you could still get paid by access to care for them as a caregiver. And you wouldn't require a license. But basically, if you're going to be a business, then you're required a license. So depending on what kind of license would depend on what you want to do. So if you want to provide behavioral health services, then you would need to have a license because you would want to bill for those services. If you're going to provide assisted living services, again, you would want to bill, so you're going to need a license. But if you wanted to just do a boarding home, you could do that, where perhaps you do a boarding home and you have those people just stay there and they go somewhere else for their services. That wouldn't require a license as long as you're not, again, purporting to be a business and doing anything that's a licensable service. So that would be medications. You can't store a resident's medications yourself. They could store their own medications in their own lockbox, but you couldn't store it, because then once you hold on to medications, then you're providing a licensable service.
Okay.
Okay. Mama, let
Can
me
anybody
pitch in.
just it's gonna be only John who can speak, or everybody can speak?
Yeah, we'll call up people to speak, but I want to keep it as organized as possible. If you want to ask a question, put up. There's a hand right there. I'll see it and then I'll call you up. Okay.
Oh, what is it? How can I don't know how to raise my hand, try to.
Okay. I'm going to you hold on one second. Mom, I would like to.
Maya, I think we lost you. But while we wait for Mai, Cindy, can you share the PowerPoint presentation with me? I think you have my email through Tiffany.
Okay, yeah. Let me see if I living home.
Okay. Thank you. Trying to get to another question. I'm trying to get, okay, so I see Daphne or hands of Jason. I'm trying to, these are non-descriptive names, so it's kind of hard to tell who you are. If you can get off mute and ask a question.
Yes, William.
Okay.
Sorry, go first.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is
it's hands off, Josh.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, I just,
it's
I'll mute.
okay.
Sorry.
Let me hold on. I'll do it after you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. I'm sorry. But just quick question, Miss Cindy, you talked about in a couple of years, like the behavior rate has gone up, I think from 500 to like 1,000. Do you feel there is still need of that as far as patients for behavioral treatments? Or are you getting to the maximum capacity based on the environment in Arizona?
That's a good question. It's hard to say. I don't think that these facilities are full necessarily. When we look at them, we do go to a lot of facilities that don't have residents, but that is also true with our assisted living homes. It is a weird environment right now now that sober living homes have been now are licensed, and we're finding a lot of facilities closing and becoming sober living homes. So it's a little, I don't know if I could say that there's necessarily a need, but they are still growing. We sometimes get like 50 applications in one day. But we also get them closing, so that's why it's not growing as rapidly. So sometimes we might get, we might license 40 in a month, but we also close 40 in a month. So.
All right, thank you. Then we can go to.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to ask more information regarding boarding housing homes.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to know about boarding homes?
Yeah, what are the requirements and how do you define those?
Boarding homes are usually just something that people kind of describe themselves as a boarding home, which would mean basically that they're not going to provide any services. They're just providing basically room and board for the residents. So that would mean that residents would be required to, if they have medications, store their own medications. The facility would not have access. They couldn't purport to be any kind of business. So they can't name themselves anything behavioral health related. So they can't appear, or I wouldn't name yourself anything sober living related too, because in sober living, we'll tell you need a license as well. So a boarding home would just be if you open up a home and you want to have several people and you might help them with doctor's appointments. You could take them to transport them. You can cook for them. You just can't provide any behavioral health or physical health services that require a license. That would be then strictly up to each city of whether there's any requirements as far as zoning or anything like that. As far as I know, if you're staying under 10, most cities, I know under 5 for sure, most cities aren't going to have any issue. But under 10, you'd have to look at, if it's from 5 to 10, you'd have to look at each city just to make sure you're not out of compliance with the city requirements.
Oh, can I add a comment for what he said?
Mm-hmm.
So we have you all know that we are dealing with the substance abuse and people, drug addiction. So I have one guy. He asked me one question, and then I want to just bring all so you can answer these. Some outpatient clinic, IOP, or they have a inpatient and outpatient. So what is the difference between inpatient and outpatient, if I have a clinic and I have my own homes to like a shelter home so where my clients, they can come to the clinic to get a service. Do we need a license in those homes?
So you have an OTC, so you have an outpatient clinic where you're able to do an IOP. Is that correct?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, and you want to just house them at a home.
Yeah,
As long as there's no services being provided at that home under that, is that you're not providing the services there. They're going, I assume that they're leaving and going to the OTC each day.
Yeah, we give them like a shelter home. They can live there, and then they can get a service from IOP for treatments.
You wouldn't be, as far as our rules are concerned, that wouldn't require a license if no services are being provided on the premises of the house where the home is.
Okay,
You're just doing room and board, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. You just want to make sure you're not calling yourself a sober living home or a behavioral health home.
I got you. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So when you say services, does that also include telehealth services, Zoom services?
If they're getting the counseling there from who? Is it from the OTC?
Correct.
If you're providing it, if it's all happening in the home, it's kind of getting a little gray area where it might appear as if the services are being provided in home. I don't know. That'd be probably more of that might be an access issue for billing.
Yeah, will be access issues, but we are just talking about license protocols.
Yeah.
I think as long as that pretty much you answer my question.
This is hands of Jesh. I just thank you, Cindy. I just want to know if I'm providing room and board, where do I go to be paid for my room and board? When I go to the IOPs, IOPs allowed to bill for me because my clients are getting services from them, or I have to go to Access Direct to get payments. And since I'm not licensed, how do I do you have an idea how Access is supposed to pay me or reimburse me?
As far as I know, unless you would end up qualifying for a new license that they have, I know there's a new shelter shelter service that they're proposing through Access. I don't know of what reimbursement room and board would be. That's not something that we license. So I'm not sure if that is something that Access would reimburse. That usually with room and board, it's something that you're requesting the resident to pay.
But I think we have some people here in Arizona, especially in Phoenix, and they have a good heart. They want to help these homeless. You know what I mean? Sometimes they give them a home to live, and then they can looking for treatment somewhere, like outpatient clinics. So that's so what is the thing we can guide them as a people who have an IOP, because we have a lot of issues. People have like a good heart, especially like churches. They give them like homes to live, and then they request us to give them a service like a treatments. So what is your advice so we can, like a counselor, counsel it?
If you're looking for room and board and IOP, that is our behavioral health facility. So basically a behavioral health residential facility is a place where they live and they get therapy, all the treatment there in the home. They're supposed to have therapy, group therapy, whatever, everything's supposed to be handled there, which should be at the same. So somebody in a behavioral health residential facility should not be going to an IOP at the same time. That would be a doubling that would be double billing of the same service through Access. That's what they would consider that to be the same service. So if you're looking to get paid for them to be living there and doing that, that would be residential. That would be under behavioral health residential. But if you're just looking to like house them and then send them to an IOP, only the IOP is going to get paid for, not the living part of it. But again, that's all Access things, not through us, not through licensing. That's Access the payer.
So yeah, I know what you mean, but my question is, if I have someone who has a home and then he has a client like a homeless, as I said, people we're dealing with a substance abuse, but we have some people who has who willing to help these people like special homeless, and when they came to IOP, if you have your only if you have an IOP and then you have somebody who has 3 clients to his home, and then that home is the boarding home, he came to you, he said, we have these 3 clients, they need help, they need treatment, they want to be sober up, and they get a treatment through that IOP. Is the IOP can do service for those homes, or is it that IOP can just give like any accommodation for those homes?
Not that I'm aware of as far as funding is concerned, because they're only supposed to, the intent of intensive outpatient treatment indicates that they don't need the residential. If they're able to live in their own home and then come to this intensive outpatient is the intent. That's the intent of an IOP. Otherwise, they would be in a behavioral health residential facility if they needed to be living in the same place that they were receiving the services. However, I do know that there is that Access at our last meeting discussed a new program that was supposed to be some kind of I can't remember the exact name, some kind of shelter that's coming through where if you were going to be working with residents to try to get them employment and their non-health related services, like getting them employment, getting them resources, that's going to be some kind of reimbursable service that's coming in the future.
So it looks like we are coming up to the top of the hour, and Cindy, you gave us up until 2. We want to be respectful of your time, and this has been really a great meeting, and we appreciate all the answers and the information you have provided. One thing that I would like to ask is, we as you can tell, there's a lot of questions that we have. There's a lot of interest in getting into this type of business and helping other people. So number one, I think we'll have some questions that we may be able to forward to you and you can answer them for us. And then number 2, we're probably going to need another meeting in the near future, because there's a lot of questions, a lot of interest. So that's one request that I would like to extend to you, for you to come back and help, and also any other questions that we may have, will be forwarding those to you.
That would be great. Yes, definitely.
So
thank you, Cindy. I'll be forwarding the questions to you, and I'll give Madam Ambassador Her Excellency to give some closing remarks and some vote of thanks to you, and we will be in touch.
I just want to thank you, Cindy, for all the information. You've answered a million questions that at the embassy were possibly not able to. What we can do is pass on the information, the PowerPoint and all those things, and I hope that one of our officers will also have access to that. But other than that, is to reassure you that our community, they represent a really good service in terms of their valuable, their commitment, and the more information that they have, they're superb. I know I don't want to mention other cities, but what they've done in Boston is just incredible. And even by culture, you know, our culture is a nurturing one. And Uganda, in the whole world, we host 1 million refugees, and they're not encamped. So our diaspora and our community really comes with a heart of gold. They need some directions and a bit of encouragement, but we're exceptionally proud of the commitment that they've put towards this, and any assistance that they can be given so that they stay on top of the game is simply welcome. Henrietta and company, thank you again. Thank you so much for putting this together. And I look forward to great success.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I see that we had our Zoom maxed out. We had it on Facebook. We have this recorded, and we are going to be sending it to you, and we will also send you the PowerPoint presentation from Cindy. Thank you so much for joining this call. It's 4:02. Cindy, as John said, we are very mindful of your time. We don't want to keep you here, but have a blessed evening. And please pass our regards to Tiffany.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you so much. John, are you off or are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, Maya, I think, dropped off. I think Lambert was trying to bring her back, but you must be a co-host. Are you able to bring Maya on?
No, let me see. Don't think so. Let me check.
She says that every time she's trying to get back on, she's kicked out. I don't know what the problem is.
I think she must have room to be able to come on. Before it was full capacity.
Abu, I think you have the you may have hosting ability. Are you able
Let
to?
me try to get her. Let me
get her in.
Yeah,
she
call
was
her
like
and then
giving up.
try to get her back on. One
Yeah,
of
she
you
was
has
like giving
hosting
up.
capabilities. While you're doing that, I think what we are going to do is we are going to try to engage the Arizona Health Department to talk to you guys more on this, because I can see we have so many pending questions that needed to be answered. So what we will do is maybe have them all tabled all over so that those that were not answered, they can go through them and get some answers to you. But we have so many.
Alim, my is in the waiting room, and it's like Lambert is the host. It's only Lambert who can meet.
Oh, so Lambert is okay. And Lambert, I think, had stepped away. Let's see. Let me mute you guys for a moment.
Yeah, thank you everybody for being part of this wonderful exchange. Wonderful. It was nice. It was nice, and we got to learn so many things that we didn't know. And like we said, like Mr. John Wamara requested for more meetings with the team from the state, and looked to be willing to give us more time in future. So this is a beginning. We need to just make her house in order. Otherwise, Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being patient and being civil, and whatever you did was amazing. Mike cannot be on, so Mr. John, you can take over and see how we conclude this.
Okay, so really just quick to give everybody an update of some of the stuff we've been doing in the background. I'm sure there was a question on the forum. So Abu Baker introduced this idea some time back, and a few people picked up on it. Is really to form an organization or an association that can help us in this business. So we've been talking behind the scenes, and I think we're at the point where we are ready to bring back the idea to the larger group. We formed up an association, and you've seen the initials, I think, called ATGH, Arizona Transitional Group Homes. And really the whole idea is doing stuff like we've done today, educate people, speak with a common voice, share information and ideas, collaborate with government and other agencies that are involved in this business, and also to advertise and inform. Sometimes with this kind of business, we have to be proactive. We have to go to the government agencies ahead of time before things go wrong. We have to let them know we are here and we are here doing good things before they come to us complaining. There's a lot of negative information about group homes, but there's also good stuff that's now being reported. So part of this organization will be to go out and talk to government agencies, talk to media and say, hey, we are here doing a lot of good things. Of course, negative news makes news, but we have to find a way to also inform people of the good things that are being done in group homes. So that's really the purpose of the association. And we're also seeking legal counsel because in this kind of business, of course, there are challenges that may lead to lawsuits and legal challenges. As part of this association, there will be at least some legal advice or lawyers that will be helping us to navigate some of the legal challenges that we may get into as we run this business. So that's sort of what has been going on behind the scenes, but we'll be able to, I think in the coming days, we'll introduce what we've done and then encourage everybody to join and participate in the association. Other than that, I think that's all I have. Unless there's a question, I think we can call it a day.
John, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, Lambert is almost there and Mai will be let in. So he suggested that for those people that have questions, please go ahead and still submit them so that we are able to send them to the Department of Health. And once those answers are sent back, we will make sure that we distribute them like we have been sharing all the other information. Just to let you guys know, I spoke to Mai Namako Kiro, and we also had a very long conversation with the ambassador, and this conversation was triggered from the fact that I was actually contacted by the authorities and asked a lot of information about what was going on in Arizona. As a leader, I felt compelled to make sure that we had such an educative forum so that we can try to make sure that you guys are doing business correctly and no one gets into any, no one gets onto the wrong side of the law. That is why we brought this forum here to you. So what we are going to do is we are going to continue engaging the Department of Health, ask them for more informative forums such as these, more educative forums such as these, so that we make sure that you are kept abreast of how you should be conducting business in Arizona. Because we are really proud that we have so many Ugandans that are interested in doing business, but then we also would like to make sure that things are being done correctly and no one ends up on the wrong side of the law. We also must also say that we see that there are a lot of questions because there are so many gray areas that need to be clearly, explained to you. There were so many questions that were unanswered. There's so much that there's so much information that's that is not flowing from the source, that is the department, to you guys, the business people. But we are going to try to do our best to make sure that this information is given to you. We also ask you to do your due diligence as business folks to try and get as much information as you can on your side. We can do so much, but we do not live there. We do not, we cannot be getting everything that you need. What we can do is we can try to get it as much as we can, but if we can't be able to get everything, the onus is on you to also do your due diligence. I hope Mai is almost here because I think she had a couple of things she wanted to say as a co-host to this forum. But with that said, I must say I am really pleased that we have quite a big number of you in Arizona, and I know that a lot of people still have expressed interest to come and join the community there. So thank you for everything that you are doing. We just pray that everything is done okay, and whatsoever information you need in any way that we can give resources or try to empower you in a way, in one way or the other, we are just a phone call away, we are just an email away or a text message away to do that. With that said, John, you can take the mic.
All right. So I think we just I think we just ended over here. I think we've said it all. I think some of you, I just didn't get a chance to introduce myself. John Wamala. I'm the chairman of the Arizona here. So if you guys need anything, obviously, let me know. I've been here in the state for a long time, so there's a lot of stuff that at least I can help with as far as how this state kind of operates. It kind of helps, I think, if you just move in an area and you're not familiar with all the nuances of that area. So reach out if you need any help, and we are all in this together, and we can help each other succeed and get better. So with that, I think we can end the meeting. Thank you, Henrietta. You're now president for all the coordination, ambassador, and everybody else that participated in this meeting. So have a great day, everybody.
John, can we have your email address?
Yes.
Your contact?
All right, I'll add it to the chat.
John, can you put the other email as well? The ATG.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll add it to the chat too. So the other email that Abu is talking about is an email to the association that we are working on, that we are ready to introduce to you. So you can also, anything related to that association, you can communicate or send it to that email.
Mr. Mulumba, any final words?
No, you guys have said it all, and just want to encourage my friends, my colleagues in business that it's not the end. They shouldn't lose hope. We just need to put our houses in order. We just need to be compliant with whatever the law needs us to be. And the business is there. That's what I want to tell you guys. The business is there. We just need to do it right. That's
Okay.
it.
John, bane mnansonyiwa tusobutansa sula
here.
Wi-Fi bagitaze.
Welcome back,
Who's-
Mai. We were waiting for you. We didn't want to close without you being here.
Bambi mwebale kubeerako. Yeah, people have been calling me. Wi-Fi kept kicking me off. Calling these guys to look at it. Naye, I knew John was there. Mwami Ngamala, thank you for pitching in. Nchala Henrietta Bambi, thank you for this. Naye, manchogera kado tukolera. If we can't reach out to these guys who modulate IOPs, nja kuyita ogendeyo in your capacity naye nja kusooka kufunira all the information.
Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like we need more people okulaba nga tutegeera some of these things from their perspective instead of kwerowoolezanga. Yeah, naye nga Bambi mwebale nnyo guys. Thanks for everybody who attended. Sorry for the capacity. Next time tujja Teresa.
I think next time you'll do it as a webinar so that you have as many instead of a meeting. But what I realized ku Facebook babaddeko like 150 people and onayonga balinga 100 ba meetings capacity.
Yeah, the plan naye ndowooza somehow we forgot.
Yeah.
Somehow we forgot. Yeah. Bani mubadde mwagala kimeeza bani kati ababanja kati mubanje. Ani abanja?
I think